Today was a very interesting day. The table was full of players who were playing crazy. They didn't make a lot of rhyme or reason to their play, and I couldn't make a hand stand up for a while. It was kind of frustrating and painful all at the same time. I kept on saying to myself, how could I be stuck in a game like this? Everyone's playing so poorly. Well, I guess I played a little bad myself. Anyway, I struggled most of the day trying to get even. And then one particular hand came up against a player that I know. And at the end of the hand, something happened that really made me question the integrity of this player. And stick around, you'll see it. I'd love to get your feedback on what happened, and tell me what you guys think. Am I out of line, or was he totally out of line? Anyway, sit back, relax, enjoy. Here it comes. We're back at Capital Casino in the 1-3 game. We sit down with 500 in our stack. It looks like a pretty good lineup, a lot of players, and they're playing a little crazy. I look down at ace queen offsuit in middle position, open for a raise to 15, and get 3 callers from the cutoff, the button, and the big blind. So we go 4 ways to a flop with 60 in, with ace, king 7, with a king 7 of clubs. It's a good flop for our hand, so when it's checked to us, we go ahead and bet $25. The cutoff puts in the call rather quickly, and the other 2 players end up folding. So we're going heads up to a turn of an ace of clubs. So it puts up a possible flush, but we're going to go ahead and bet this thing. He only has about $90 behind. With a $110 pot, I just decided to jam. If he wants to pull off a club, he's going to have to pay for it. Anyway, he thinks for a little bit and lets it go, and we take down our first pot of the day. The action's getting really crazy. I've seen people playing just about any 2 cards, and now the straddler decides to straddle it for $32. It's folded to me in middle position. I have ace queen offsuit. It's good enough for me. I raise to 102, so it's $70 more to the straddler. It's folded back around to him, and he peeks at one card and says, well, that one's okay. And then he peeks at another one and he goes, okay, I call. And he puts out his chips. So we're going to go heads up to a flop with 208 in the pot. I'm putting them on 2 big cards, maybe like a king jack, king 10, some sort of combination like that. When the flop comes 10 high, he just moves in one of his remaining stacks and shows he has king 10. There's an under the gun straddle for 10. One player limps in for the 10 and is folded to me on the button with ace queen offsuit. I raise to 50. Both blinds fold, and the original straddler, it goes all in for $35, and then the limper calls for the 50. So we end up going 3 ways to a flop with one player who is all in. Both players have been very active, showing down some very interesting hands. I still needed to give the caller credit for having a real hand similar to mine, either ace king, ace queen, ace jack, king queen, or some sort of middling pocket pair. When the flop comes jack 4-4, the first person checks to me. I make a small continuation bet here for 25. I really need to size up a little bit larger. The idea behind this bet was to fold out all those suited connectors that might want to tag along and keep control of the betting lead. The person who is all in starts a little celebration, showing his neighbor his cards and stuff like that, which is really bad etiquette when there's still action pending. The turn card is a 6 of hearts, and I decided just to go in pot control mode and check it down. River's a king. He checks to me again.
I'm just going to check down, hopefully to take my showdown value. And he turns over King Deuce for a pair of kings on the river. And the other player went all in with Jack 4. So as you can tell, any two will do in this game. We're under the gun and look down at 2 jacks and open for a raise to 15. The person on my direct left puts in the call, and so does the next person. It gets folded back to the small blind and the big blind, and they both decide to let their hands go. So we're headed 3 ways to a flop with 49 in. The person on my direct left is a very conservative player. The one next to him is playing very wide. The flop comes ace 7-3. I check it, and it gets checked around rather quickly. Thinking that I might have the best hand, I decided to protect it with a $20 bet, and as soon as the person on my left calls, I know he has an ace. The following player jams his stack in for like another $33. The conservative player calls with his ace-king, and the person who jammed had 10-5 offsuit and spikes a 5 on the river. I'm in the big blind with 2 10s. We get 2 early limpers. The cutoff raises to 12, the button calls, and so does the small blind. So when it gets back to me with all that dead money out there, I just decide to raise to 80. Who knows, I might get 1 caller, I might get 5 callers. I don't know at this point. But they seem to be folding to that big sizing, and I'll be happy to take this pot down the way it is. $44 is still $44, and I'd rather have the chips in my stack than somewhere else. There's 1 early limper, and I look down at ace-king off and the hijack, and I raise to 15. Both blinds and the early limper call, so we head 4 ways to a flop with 60 in. And the flop comes queen, jack 3, rainbow. It's check to me. I haven't been active, so I decided to lead for 20 and really put the pressure on people here. The small blind puts in the call. The other 2 players fold, so we're heads up to the turn with 100 in the pot. The turn is a 5 of hearts. Completing the rainbow, another big blank. He checks again, and I decided to continue for $35. I'm not sure this is a good idea. The sizing is pretty small, and he would continue with a lot of different hands. The river is a 9 of hearts, and I decided to run a bluff. If check 2, I think this is a bad idea. He is likely to call with just about anything. This is the same player that had the jack 4 earlier, and he's been showing down a lot of crazy hands. He starts to count out the money. He gets his $80 count out, and I figure, well, I'm dead here. That was a really stupid play. But I guess my table image of being fairly tight during the last hour, because I've been card dead, works out for me. And he puts in the fold, and I'm very lucky that this one got through. I think it was a bad bluff attempt. This was a very crazy hand. The low jack puts in a raise to 6. I look down at 2 9s and raise to 25. It's folded back to the small blind, who shoves all in for $75. The person in the big blind now reshoves over the top for $113. What makes this hand is so unusual is that the person in the big blind, one of his cards flashed, and it was either a red 4 or a red 5. I don't know which one. But sitting here with 2 9s, I figure I am way ahead of pocket 4s or 5s. Maybe he has ace 4, ace 5 suited. He's the type of player that would isolate with ace 4, ace 5. Anyway, so I call the all-in, and the person in the big blind had ace 4 hearts, and the small blind had ace king. A lot of the any 2 cards can win players have left, and we have some new players in that are more aggressive. The player on my direct left has been straddling and raising frequently, So when I looked down at ace, jack of hearts in the big blind, I decided just to call, expecting him to raise a high percentage of his hands, and that way my hand will still be disguised. He ends up checking it, so we go 4 ways to the flop with 24 in. I decided to check it to see if one of those aggressive players will bet it for me. The last limper ends up putting in a bet for 20. At this point, I decided to isolate him with a raise to 60, forcing out the other 2 players. The other 2 players quickly fold, and now the last limper puts in the jam for $92. He has been running kind of bad, and he might be just taking a stand here with a hand like King Jack, Queen Jack, Jack 10, all those combos I'm way ahead of, or he could have been in there with pocket 4s or pocket deuces, and those 6 combos I am way behind. So I'm ahead of 24 combos and behind in 6. I think this is an easy call at this point. So I decided to go ahead and call for the 92. So the run outcomes is pretty good. It's a 9 of hearts on the turn, which gives me the flush draw, and then the ace on the river, which makes me top 2. Now this is where things really get weird. The dealer points to the player asking him to show his hand, and he says, "You got me, you're good." And because he's been running bad, and because I've played with him for years, I decided to give him the courtesy of just showing down my hand so he doesn't have to be embarrassed to show his. So I show my ace jack for 2 pair, and he gets upset and throws down that he had 4 deuce for the flop 2 pair. Now in my mind, the only reason why a person would do this is because he wants to slow roll you. He says, "You got me, I'm beat," so I would show my pair jacks or my pocket queens or whatever I had, and that he could slow roll his 2 pair and take the pot and add a little extra needle on top. So when this happened, I called him out. I asked him why the heck he's doing this and why he says I'm good when he has a 2 pair type of hand. Naturally, he didn't have a very good response and was making up some sort of stuff like, "Oh, I knew you had 2 pair, I knew you had this," whatever. He did it with intention of slow rolling me. And what really pisses me off about the whole situation was someone mentioned something that he did the other day, and I defended him because I haven't seen him do anything like that. I realized that he was hot and stuck, and after this hand he got up and took a 30-minute break and walked away from the table. I stayed for the additional half hour, hoping that he would come back and come to his senses and at least give me some sort of apology for his actions, which did not happen. So after playing around for another half hour, I decided to leave.
He's lucky he didn't pull that shit with me.
Once again, thanks for watching. Appreciate your support. If you haven't liked and subscribed yet, please do so. It really helps out the channel. And we'll see you next time. Here are the totals for today, right over here.
What would you do if someone did that to you? I'm interested to hear your thoughts.